Hey everybody, Steve here in Palm Springs. This morning on my walk, I want to share a story with you, actually 3 stories, about how dangerous it can be to walk, even in residential neighborhoods. I got the idea to do this video from a comment that was left by a viewer named Checkmate. After reading his comment about something awful that happened to him while he was walking in a residential neighborhood, it reminded me of a personal story of something that happened to a family member of mine while he was out for a walk. So I thought I would share those 2 stories, and then there's another story that one of my neighbors was telling me the other day when we were out on our walk, and we were talking about just how dangerous it can be, all the different things that can happen to you while you're out for your morning walk. So hopefully this walk will be uneventful, but I thought this might be helpful for you to hear, just as a heads up or a warning for any of you who might also take walks like I do every day. All right, so I'm going to put on my big hat because it's very sunny out. Even though it's cold, it's very sunny, and so I've got my big hat with me, and I have no idea where I'm walking today. I have no idea what I'm going to see today, but as I'm walking and talking, I'll show you the homes in the neighborhood, so you'll have something to look at while you're listening to me tell you these 3 stories. And for those of you who are wondering, I'm filming with my DJI Action 5 camera. I'm going to walk up this street. It's a dead end or a cul-de-sac. It's Mariscal Road. I forget the name of this neighborhood. Some of the street signs, they have the neighborhood names on them, but that particular one didn't have a name on it, so I can't remember the name of this neighborhood. These are all multi-million-dollar homes here in this neighborhood, just in case you're wondering. All right, so let me turn the camera around here and tell you the story. This is a really large home here. Looks like it was a mid-century modern home that was built onto. This garage was probably added. So subscriber Checkmate left a comment a few weeks ago on one of my videos. I think it was my video where I was walking around the cemetery talking about the importance of bringing your cell phone with you when you're out for a walk. He left a message saying that he always brings his phone with him, his cell phone with him, and gave a good example of why. He was out one day walking in his neighborhood, and he was brutally attacked from behind and beaten by, he didn't say if it was a stranger or someone he knew. He said that he's been left traumatized. This was 2 years ago, and the experience left him with PTSD, and he's been trying to, have this person arrested, which makes me think that maybe he knew who this person was, or maybe someone saw the attack and they were able to call the police, and maybe he was arrested on the scene. I'm not really sure. He didn't give a lot of details about that, but he was saying that now it's very difficult for him to go out to walk, and he was also talking about the importance of not wearing headphones or earbuds when you're walking. It's important to be able to hear if someone's sneaking up behind you. And I never really thought about it that much, and when I'm out on my walks, I never really look behind me to see if anybody's following me. But after reading his comment, now I do. Whenever I'm walking, I kind of pay attention to who's around me, especially behind me, just in case. All right, so we're at the end of this street. I'm going to go back down, and then I'll go back up the next street. There's a series, I think there's about 3 or 4 cul-de-sacs like this, or dead-end streets like this, right in a row. And I'm just going to go walk up and down each one. So not only was he brutally beaten by this person, and I don't know why, and he didn't leave the details about why that happened, but he's been in court trying to have this person put in jail for the last 2 years, and so far unsuccessfully. So I don't know what the whole story is. If you want to read his more in-depth comment, search for my video titled something, I'll see if I can remember it. I'll put the title down here. It was titled something about not leaving home without your cell phone, and his name is Checkmate. And he left a long comment. I responded, and then a couple of other people responded who had also had similar experiences. And I would highly recommend, if you're a walker, if you like to go out and walk and you want to be safe, read his comment and read the other comments, and hopefully it'll just make you, like me, more aware of our surroundings when we're out for a walk. So anyway, his comment got me thinking about my great-grandfather. Back in the 1960s, I think it was 1967, I was 13 years old. He was out for his morning walk, walking down the street at the end of the block. Now he lived in a residential neighborhood, and at the end of their block was a little corner store, a little corner market. This was before 7-Elevens really became popular, and you just had corner markets that were owned by families, just little family corner markets. So he was probably walking down there to pick up a newspaper or something, I guess. And he was 81 years old at the time, and I remember he was kind of hard of hearing, and he also wore real thick glasses, so I think he probably had vision impairment. I was young. I was 13 years old, so I didn't really think too much about it. He was just an older great-grandfather, and I do remember he walked very slowly and didn't have great eyesight, and probably should have worn a hearing aid. I guess they had hearing aids back then. Well, I'm sure they must have, but he didn't wear a hearing aid that I know of. So when he was walking, I guess he just didn't hear. He was walking down on a sidewalk, and a car was backing out of their driveway and just ran right over him and killed him right there, just a few doors down from their house. And this was in a suburb of Los Angeles. So, a nice suburb, a nice residential neighborhood, not a busy street, but someone wasn't paying attention and just backed up really fast and ran right over him, knocked him down and ran over him and killed him. And gosh, that story has stayed with me ever since I was a kid, because it was just such a tragic way to go and such a sad way to go. And the reason it stays with me, and I think about it almost every day, is because in my own neighborhood, which is a nice, quiet residential neighborhood, people who live in the neighborhood drive like maniacs. They're always, I guess, late for work, and I walk early in the morning quite often when people are getting ready to go to work, and everyone's always running late and rushing, and these days people are drinking their coffee and texting and putting on their makeup and doing all kinds of things in their cars, so they're just barreling down our streets, and I'm always jumping out of the way to avoid being run over by people who aren't paying attention. And we don't have sidewalks in our neighborhood. Most of, like you can see, these neighborhoods here don't have sidewalks. And I've mentioned this before. Now, this was a newer condo development over here, built back, I think, in the 80s. And it does have sidewalks, but that's rare. Mostly, we have areas like this. Now, this at least has an area where you can walk here away from the road, but quite often there's nothing like this where you can walk. You just have to walk in the street, and so you're walking in the street where the cars are driving, and if they're not paying attention, you can easily get run over. And you wouldn't believe how many times I've been walking in my neighborhood in the street. All right, so I'm on Santa Elena now. I'm going to walk up to the end of the street here, another cul-de-sac. How many times I've been taking my walk in the morning, walking down the street. Well, that's beautiful. And cars have been backing up out of their driveway, and I have been so close to being hit dozens of times over the years. So I don't wear earbuds when I'm walking. I don't wear headphones. I wouldn't anyway, but just for safety reasons, I know it's not a smart idea to do that, because I want to be able to hear and also see cars. So whenever I'm walking by a driveway, I always slow down. I look to make sure there's not a car there backing up, or even just sitting in the driveway with the motor running, because sometimes people will do that. They'll sit there and they'll be doing something in their car, and the motor's running. You don't even realize anyone's in the car, and then all of a sudden they just shift it into reverse and floor it, and if you're behind, you're going to get run over. So I'm always paying attention to that when I'm walking in my neighborhood, or in a neighborhood like this when I'm just out walking in different neighborhoods where I don't live. You notice a lot of these homes have these hedges here. As I mentioned earlier, these are all multi-million-dollar homes, and a lot of them, they want their privacy. A lot of them have tennis courts. It's a very upscale neighborhood here in the northern end of Palm Springs. So, look at this cute sign here. One of the things I love about my walks is I'm always running into these really cute signs. Now, this is a mailbox, and their sign says, "Love letters only." Isn't that cute? All right, so let me continue on up here. Now, again, I forgot what I was saying. I get distracted very easily on my walks, as you know, if you've watched any of my previous walking videos. But I guess that's part of the fun, I don't plan these out ahead of time. I might have a topic that I want to talk about, but other than that, I just walk and just show you what I happen to see, and I just like to explore. And sometimes I talk about a topic if I have one, like today. So anyway, my grandfather's tragic death while out on his walk had probably saved my life, has probably over the years saved my life. If that hadn't happened to him, I probably wouldn't have been as aware as I am now that things like that could happen. I've never heard of that happening before, where someone gets killed while they're out on their walk just by being run over on the sidewalk by someone backing out of their driveway. Now, I have over the years, I've heard of people running over their cats or their dogs, their pets, who might happen to be in the driveway. I have heard of that happen, but I've never heard of anyone being killed by being run over by someone who was pulling out of their driveway. Have any of you heard of that? I hope not. I slowly walk back down this street here to the end. That's a cool pink house. I think I've mentioned in previous videos that pink houses used to be pretty popular here in the desert back in the 1950s, especially 1960s. You don't see too many these days, but it's fun when you do. So the third story, came from my neighbor Angela. When she first moved here to the desert, 15, 20 years ago, she lived in the downtown Palm Springs area, and she lived in an apartment. It was before she bought the home in the neighborhood where she now lives. And she was telling me that her apartment manager was out in the morning on his morning walk, and they did have sidewalks where she lived. It was an apartment complex, and he was out walking with his dog and a car driving down the street. This was a residential neighborhood. I don't know if they lost control or if they weren't paying attention, they were texting, or who knows what caused the accident, but the car came up onto the sidewalk, ran over him and his dog, and killed them both right there. And she had just moved to Palm Springs, and I guess she was friends with the manager of this apartment building, and she was just traumatized. It was just so awful to have that happen right in front of their apartment building while he was walking his dog, taking his dog out for its morning walk on the sidewalk in a residential neighborhood, and a car just came up on the curb and ran over and killed him and his dog. I mean, can you believe that? I mean, it just shows you, even if you're on the sidewalk and you think you're being safe, things could still happen to you. So that's just, I guess, one of the hazards of going out for your walk. No matter where you walk, it doesn't even have to be a busy street, just a residential neighborhood. So I just wanted to give you this heads up and this warning, and just to be aware if you're not already aware. And if you have a story that you'd like to share of something like this that's happened to you or someone you know, please feel free to share it with us, again, as just a helpful reminder to be as safe as you possibly can when you're out walking. I mean, sometimes there's just nothing you can do. Like, she was walking her dog in our neighborhood, and we just happened to be talking about how everyone in our neighborhood speeds. They just drive so crazy, and it's not just our neighborhood, it's everywhere. And I don't know, I assume it's everywhere, not just Palm Springs, but everywhere I've lived, people have driven like crazy maniacs. It's just how people people are. People don't pay attention. They're busy doing other things. They're not thinking. Or sometimes the sun is in their eyes. That's happened to me just walking in my neighborhood, where I always walk facing traffic. I've heard years and years ago that when you're walking, it's better to walk facing traffic, because then if someone's coming toward you, at least you have a chance of getting out of the way. Like right now, I'm on this side of the street, so I would be walking the same direction as traffic. So if someone's coming behind me and they accidentally come up onto where I'm walking, I don't have a chance, I don't see it, and I don't have a chance to get out of the way. So I always walk on this side of the street when there are cars around. And that's how I can see them coming. And quite often cars will be coming, and if they happen to be driving into the sun, I'm sure you guys have experienced this too, at early morning when the sun is just coming up and the sun is in your eyes, you can't see a thing. It can be really awful, and no fault of your own. You can't see what's going on, and you might not be able to see if somebody's walking on the street right in front of you, and you could easily just run over them without even seeing them, even if you're driving slowly. It can be very hazardous. So it could just be completely an accident just because of just being blinded by the sun. So I'm not going to let it stop me from walking, even though I know the hazards and I try to be as safe as I can. There's just no guarantee, but I don't want it to keep me from walking and getting my exercise and enjoying my walks. Well, I still can. I'm 72 years old. I'm still able to walk for hours at a time and miles at a time. So, all right, so it's called Little Tuscany. That's the name of this neighborhood. And this is Chino Canyon Way. And at the end of this street here, if you go all the way up, you walk by Elvis's house, and maybe I will do that in the next video. I'm going to stop this video here though for today. So I just wanted to give you this heads up and share these 3 stories with you. And if you have any that you'd like to share with us, please do so in the comments section. And I will look forward to seeing you on my next walk.